Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of Kinfolk Chronicles presented by the Carter Clinic. Today I'm here with Miss MaRay Crockett. She's a licensed family and marriage therapist, and she is the founder of Evolve Healing House. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for welcoming me.
Of course. We're really excited to have you. As the founder of your own company, what has been the most challenging thing that you've engaged in since you started? You're pretty new to owning your company, correct?
Yes. The most challenging thing has been like my own capacity. So learning kind of how to balance my caseload with high risk clients, so clients who have suicidal ideation, clients who are high conflict, so high conflict couples, they can't really make it through a session without having a lot of aggression towards each other, and having to kind of somewhat play referee in the beginning. So kind of figuring out how to manage how many clients I can take on if I have those type of clients on my caseload.
I see. Okay. Here at the Carter Clinic, we deal with people who are in recovery from addiction.
Mm-hmm.
They generally are on a medication after being psychiatrically evaluated, and then they have to be staffed by multiple modalities and multiple professions to help them on their journey, such as a psychiatrist, a therapist, sometimes a peer support specialist. Where do you think that aligns with what you do, and where do you come in someone's healing journey?
Yeah, usually I have clients that come in after they have seen a psychiatrist and got a diagnosis. ADHD is very popular. They'll come in with that, especially in couples where they show up and their partner has this diagnosis, and it all makes sense now as to why they can't function the way that their partner would like them to function, where some of the arguments are coming from. So I'm usually on the receiving end of them wanting to figure out how their recent diagnosis is affecting their relationship or just their overall lifestyle, and I help them with some skills in that area.
I see. So here we offer psychiatric evaluations, medical management, especially through our medicated assisted therapy and trauma therapy. I think that's where our professions sort of overlap the most.
Mm-hmm.
You deal with trauma therapy. What are some of the ways in which you sort of help people cope?
Yeah, so I have a lot of ways, but I'll kind of go with my top two. With individuals, I typically do EMDR therapy, which is a very trauma intensive therapy. It helps people, individuals, and also I have some couples who kind of want their partner to do EMDR and then come back to couples therapy. It helps them kind of process whatever trauma that they've been holding on to, whether it's childhood trauma. It could even be like a recent, something more recent that was traumatic. So it could be a car crash, it could be a death of a loved one unexpectedly. It could be something that is just sitting and weighing on them heavily. And through that, we process the memory, we kind of process the belief that's tied to the memory, and we help regulate the nervous system through mindfulness, through some sort of sensation tracking, and we end up just moving through the memory to where they can actually start to be able to talk about it without having a physical reaction or having an emotional reaction to it. And then it just becomes a part of their story, not kind of a trigger for them.
I see. So without naming anybody, can you give me a success story that you've had, whether it was since you started Evolve Healing House or prior to that when you were still licensed?
Yeah. Let me think. So I can kind of give you how people come in usually. So usually, no matter the trauma, they come in wanting to identify what it is that is keeping them stuck. So they'll come in, we will kind of identify 3 different memories, And I like to do memories that are kind of across different periods of their life. So we do childhood, we do some like young adult if they're like in their 20s or so. And then we do something more present that is disturbing to them. And we kind of go memory by memory to be able to process how distressing it is, what do they believe about it, what they would like to believe about it. And then in the beginning, we call it resourcing. So it's basically having different grounding tools for them to be able to process outside of therapy. A lot of people get stuck on the resourcing tools. One in particular, which is our support figures that we like to give people. So the support figures are a nurturing support figure, a wise support figure, and then a protective support figure. Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't name the idea of three of those. And it brings up a lot for them of, I have no one nurturing in my life, I have no one protective, I have no one wise. And so that kind of, it's interesting to have them go through that process, and then by the end, they are identifying the people who they actually do have in their life that are those things, or they're starting to find those people and welcome them into their life. So that's a beautiful part of the process is they come in feeling like they don't have something, feeling weighed down, and they leave feeling lighter physically. They'll say they feel physically lighter. They're not thinking about the memory as much, and if they do, it's just a story that they tell, and they end up kind of on the search for their community that is for them and makes them feel nurtured, protected, and guided a little bit.
That's really inspiring. It seems like you do great work. It seems like you're passionate about it. What was a moment early on in maybe your life or youth that sort of guided you down this pathway to this specific discipline?
Yeah, so let me drink some water really quickly.
Of course.
So I originally went to family therapy with my mom when I was in middle school. I believe I was in 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade, and we went because I was kind of quiet, and partially what it was is I didn't feel like I had permission to be like outgoing and do things the way that my peers and my friends were doing them. Because my mom didn't really open that door for me. We moved a lot, and so when we moved to a new place, I was kind of waiting for her to give me the green light to do more in this new place, and she didn't like outright say it. So we went to family therapy, and very quickly I told the family therapist that I would love to go out and do these normal, kid things. Go to the mall, go to the mall with friends, go to the movies, things like that. And my mom was kind of shocked. She was like, well, I just thought you didn't want to go. I was like, well, I thought I didn't have permission to go. And so very basic communication things that we just didn't talk about. And I ended up having a little bit more freedom and the ability to go out and do more things that I felt like my friends were doing. So that was really inspiring for me, and I was like, oh, I want his job. I want to be able to help some kids feel like they can have, more freedom and be able to be more expressive. So that was my original kind of career path, is I wanted to be a child therapist. I became one, and I still do child therapy. It's just not my specialty, and I'm not accepting kids right now, but I probably will later on in my career. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I did do it. I worked at a school, and I was basically the one pulling kids out of their classes to talk about things that were bothering them. I felt like it wasn't productive enough because they were getting disrupted in the middle of their school day. And when I was doing it at a group private practice, a lot of it was, well, their parents just don't know right? Their parents don't really have the skills. They haven't sat down with them. They haven't spent the quality time. And so it wasn't really the kid as much as it was the parent who needed the guidance and needed some of the skills to work with their kids. So the kids they were just happy to have someone to talk to. But it got to a point where it's like, I actually need to be talking with your parents about the things that could be helpful for you.
So you sort of needed a more well-rounded or more comprehensive way to guide them. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes. I needed, the parents provide the structure, right? So there's only so much work you can do with a kid who has no power to change their schedule, to cook their meals. Like, they need the structure, and so they get limited very easily with kids. So
Okay, here at the Carter Clinic, we actually do service children as well as adolescents and families with problems that interfere with their daily life. We also have level 4 adolescent homes for young men who need more intensive support. And we also do have family therapy as well. Under what circumstances would you talk to a couple or a single person and refer or reference them to another service or discipline that they may need?
All the time. So can you reword the question, maybe?
Yeah, when would you sort of see if they needed something extra besides just family therapy, or when do you think that there could be situations that may be more difficult or may require maybe medication or anything like that?
Yeah, when it's noticeably out of control, right? So to be able to work in a couple, to be able to work in family therapy, it does require a level of teamwork. If the session is all about one person, or all about, in family therapy, all about these two people, and it's out of control, no one can have the conversation, we can't really make progress, there's usually something else going on. And that's where individual therapy comes in. That's where potentially they do need medication, depending on what the individual therapist says that they need, or the psychiatrist says that they need. So if they can't be in a group setting and move forward in a productive way, then that's usually a individual, deeper problem.
I see.
Yeah.
I asked that because in this industry, it seems like it's multidisciplinary, and it seems like therapy is one method, peer support is another, community group therapy. People seem to need multiple ways and methods to handle whatever is going on with them.
Yeah, they do.
With your expertise, you generally have to sort of stick to a few topics, right? And so sometimes can it be out of the scope, or have you dealt with anyone who has an addiction, or currently, even though you said usually they're in recovery, have you ever dealt with someone with an addiction and they're uncooperative or they need extra support?
I have, but very briefly, because it doesn't get far. So I've worked with people who had like alcohol addictions, who come into couples therapy, but it's usually they're just there for their partner. And so there's not enough commitment to even get to the end goal, because they haven't stopped drinking, they don't have the support system that they need to maintain whatever couples therapy goal that we have. So yeah, I've worked with people who've had addictions that were active, but as quickly as they come in, it is as quickly as they end up going out. I'm usually the one referring them out too, because we're not going to get anywhere.
Okay, can you share a story where maybe there was cultural sensitivities that you had to deal with?
Hmm.
Or someone's background sort of made it difficult or complex in dealing with them? Because in this industry, across the disciplines, people have to deal with all types of people, and I think that takes a certain level of flexibility.
Yeah, it does. So I'm not a super traditional therapist, and so I approach therapy in a way that is meeting people where they're at, no matter their background. So I haven't had too many clients where, whether it's like their religion or their race or just what they believe, interrupts the therapy process. Um, Makes it difficult sometimes, depending on if it's individual therapy or couples therapy, right? So when we have couples therapy and it's two people with very different backgrounds trying to blend a family, start a family, that's when it becomes a little more difficult because they're holding tightly to their beliefs. And then that's when I have to teach them about compromising. It becomes more of like a negotiation sometimes. Sometimes that goes well, sometimes that doesn't go well, depending on how strongly they believe something, and how strongly they want to remain together while they still believe something. So it's not really me who has the issue with people coming in with different backgrounds. It's more,
How they react, sort of.
yeah, how they react to their own backgrounds, whether that's an individual who's coming in and they're clashing with their partner who's not in couples therapy. They're clashing with a friend, they're clashing with a coworker, or if it's a couple and they're clashing with each other based on their different identities.
I see. I see. Very interesting. Can you explain a little bit more about EMDR for people who don't know?
Yeah, so it's a intensive therapy. It's also a non-traditional therapy. So it basically, it's taking whatever trauma that you've experienced, big or little, and being able to process the theme around the belief that you have because of the trauma. So, for example, some people in childhood, they had childhood trauma that made them have a belief that they weren't good enough. They could have got bullied in school. They could have been rejected by a parent, maybe, and they have this belief from childhood that they're not good enough. And whenever they're triggered by something, whether it's rejection, a breakup, a job loss, and that belief comes up again, it's kind of adding to that layer of trauma that, again, I'm not good enough. And they hold on to that. And so EMDR kind of takes that theme and takes those memories that you've piled up over time that's tied to I'm not good enough and processes all of it. So that way we get to clear it out and then being able to move forward with I am good enough, I do good work, I am lovable, right? We get to make it more positive.
I see. So basically helping them manage their triggers and understand them, really.
Yeah, understand their triggers. Also, it's not always triggering afterwards, right? So if it's a memory where they felt like they were rejected and weren't good enough, they don't really want to go back to that, right? So it just gets stored away as this memory that they just never bring up again. But the feeling is still there, it still lives in their body. The belief is still there when it comes up. And so without going back and acknowledging it, we don't get to move forward.
So a deep-seated trauma that's hard to understand, and so you do a lot of digging in, during these sessions. Do you use somatic therapy as well to sort of uncover or help moderate some of these ideas or symptoms?
Yeah, so EMDR goes well with somatic therapy just because we have to identify in every session what the belief, what the memory, what it does and where it lives in your body. So if I were to ask, how do you feel about the memory that you're about to process? They would say how they feel, so maybe they feel anxious or they feel hurt by the memory. I would say, where does that live in your body right now? Where do you feel it in your body? And it's usually some type of sensation, right? Their head hurts, their stomach aches, they feel heavy and weighed down. Their heart is beating fast, there's tightness in their chest, right? It's something that is living in their body.
Oh, that's super interesting. Uh, I wanted to share us just a small snippet about myself. When I
Okay.
was growing up, I know I used to be a perfectionist in a lot of ways. So much so that sometimes it wasn't debilitating, but sometimes it could cause a little bit of paralysis. And I don't really know which direction I want to go in first. If I do the second step before the first step, maybe the first step isn't as good, etc. And sometimes that would accumulate into me feeling anxious. And for me, I used to feel that in my stomach. I used to wake up in the morning, and if I forgot to do my homework or something, I would feel super anxious, and then I would spend like an hour in the bathroom. Can you give people a few really simple, if you can, a few easy mechanisms to deal with some of those feelings, or is there sort of basic somatic practices you could just do at home to help yourself through like an anxious period or a difficult moment?
Yeah, so the easiest and freest one is box breathing. So being able to breathe, take 4 deep breaths, hold for 4, release for 4, do that 4 times. Um, that's one that's very common, but
That's
also,
my go-to.
yeah, but I know some people somewhat dismiss it. So,
Oh, I don't think it should be dismissed. I think that you would be surprised at how many moments you're not really breathing in, and you'd be surprised how much that adds up throughout the day, week, etc.
yeah, breathing is the easiest, but people forget it fairly easy. So I like to give them kind of a range. I always say you can just slow down with whatever you're doing. We live in a society where fast pace is like the go-to thing to do, and so we kind of miss the basics of taking a slower shower, taking a bath, even going walking, breathing on the walk, looking around at your surroundings. If you're walking in nature, is there birds outside? Are there leaves on the ground? Is the wind blowing? Right, slowing down and being mindful of what's around you is very grounding and relaxing.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you focus on something external and you can feel feelings of gratefulness or hopefulness, sometimes that can probably take away from some of the more internal negative things people are feeling, perhaps.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct.
Okay, so at the Carter Clinic, we offer psychiatric evaluations and medication management. In your experience, how does therapy complement psychiatric care?
Well, it does a really good job of making sure that you're maintaining the care. So, is the medication actually working? Are you checking in weekly to notice the symptoms that you're having? Even as far as just coming in and saying, I feel tired today, and tracking that. Well, if you're feeling tired often and it's not helping with depression or something, then that's something you need to take back and be mindful of. Maybe you need to switch the medication. So therapy, if anything, it helps you track kind of how the medication is working, without just being moving too quickly through it and just hoping and waiting to see. You get to, in real time, track what's going on with you.
I see. Um, the Carter Clinic and your practice both focus on whole person healing, so a wide range of um, methods to which you can help yourself heal. Where do you see the strongest overlap in our missions?
Yeah, well, I think that because the Carter Clinic offers so much, it's so easy for me to send people your way, because there's so many different things that couples come in with. I'm working with 2 people, and so 2 of these people usually have something individually that they need to work on, whether it's they need the parenting, they need the peer support for someone, they need the medication management for whatever it is that they get diagnosed with individually. So
Yeah, our peer support program, it helps adults 18 and over deal with behavioral or co-occurring substance use disorders, emotional support and motivation, coordination of doctor and community services, goal setting and wellness planning. It helps them get a sense of normalcy, resume help and job search support, and educational and vocational training referrals. We do all of that, so we try to help people wherever we can. We have 12 clinics throughout North Carolina, including Dunn, Elizabethtown, Fayetteville, Kinston, Laurinburg, Lumberton, Raleigh, and a few more like Smithfield and Wilson. Where are you based?
So I am in Raleigh. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see. And you do most of your sessions virtually?
I do most of them virtually. I am a new business, so I'm still in the phases of figuring out if I do want to have an in-person location, but for now I'm virtual.
Yeah, I do have your website pulled up here, Evolve Healing House.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice website. It says here that it says you talk about trauma a lot on this website, and I've gone through your blog as well. What should people look out for when they're searching you, and what services do you specialize in family therapy in terms of the obstacles people are facing, and what's a reoccurring issue that you see that clients face?
Yeah, so for couples, and specifically, a reoccurring issue that I face with clients is how their trauma is showing up in their relationship, because it's usually showing up in some way, whether it's they're too guarded, whether it's that they're too anxious and they're over pursuing their partner or over functioning for them because they want to be deemed good enough or lovable enough or seen enough. It shows up in them shutting down and not being able to manage conflict because it's too overwhelming for their nervous system. And so they retreat or they run, they break up instead of trying to have conversations around repairing. So I like to kind of bring up how trauma is actually impacting their relationships, and then that's when we get to creating a plan, whether it's they go to individual therapy, they need medication, whatever it is that they need to focus on to help their relationships and themselves.
That's really helpful. I think that when people are going through some of these things, do you see them trying to, well, I'll say this, you can't be everything to everyone, right? If you're speaking with a couple, let's say, and they want to stay together, they feel like they're a good match, but one person is suffering from depression or maybe even a childhood trauma that sometimes gets the best of them. How would you help them move or navigate through this as a family therapist or trauma therapy?
Yeah. Well, first, it's do they even know it's depression, right? So we would actually go through and acknowledge, is it depression or are they just retreating and it's something else? But if it is depression, it's a lot of psychoeducation around depression, getting their partner into therapy for depression, recognizing the signs and how it shows up for them, because it's not going to show up the same way for everybody, especially if they're functioning well. But when they get home, they sleep all the time, or they can't maintain their health routine or getting ready routine.
I see. Why did you name your company Evolve Healing House? What's the story behind that?
Yeah. I named my company the Evolve Healing House because I wanted to first paint the picture that there's work to be done. Like, I'm not a therapist that wants you to be in therapy for 3, 4, 5 years talking about the same thing. That's not how I like to work. So I like for people to be evolving out of their issues, and to do that, they have to do the work. So I wanted to put evolve in the title because that's what I want people to do. I want them to move past whatever it is that was in their past, whatever it is that is in their present that feels like it's a barrier to get to their future, and heal along the way in a safe space. So I put house.
I love the name. I hear that a lot, that people stay in therapy for extended periods of time. Although therapy is necessary, is there such a thing as graduating from therapy, in your opinion?
Yeah, I have a lot of clients who've graduated from therapy, especially if they're doing the work. So you can graduate quickly if it's very intentional work that you're doing, especially with EMDR. That's the quickest I've seen people actually move through trauma and then graduate therapy, and come back for like as needed. They get a new job, they get married, or they get a divorce, but usually that's not the case. But something like drastic has to happen for them to return. But yeah, people graduate all the time.
And do they recognize they've graduated, or do you tell them that they've graduated?
Yeah,
Or a mixture of
absolutely.
both?
Yeah. I'll kind of tell you the process, right? So usually we start off with weekly sessions, and then we move to bi-weekly. So if they're doing well, if they're coming in and they're like, well, I don't have much to say, I'm like, okay, well, then we don't need to be here talking about the problem of the week. We have a treatment plan. So then I move them to bi-weekly. They get to use some of the skills that they've been practicing. Then if they feel like they're maintaining what they've been practicing, we move to monthly. And then the monthly check-ins become, I've been doing what I've been taught, things are going well, I think I'm okay. And they're trying to find something. And if they're just trying to find something, then they don't really need to be in therapy. They need community, or they need friends, or like just another outlet space potentially, but they don't need therapeutic treatment necessarily. So they know when they're about to graduate. They're almost waiting for me to kind of give them
Green light, or
yeah.
a push.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of similar to peer support in the sense that we're actively working with an individual to make sure that they can stand on their own 2 feet, and they can get back to their life and get back to maintaining job search, maintaining their health, mental health, emotional health. We want them to be able to do that on their own, and as you say, come back as needed. Yeah, so I think that's another category in which the disciplines overlap. I'm seeing that a lot in this industry, being pretty new to it myself. Speaking of being new to the industry, you're a Black woman in the industry. Is there challenges or complexities you faced with that being the case?
Yeah. Yes, there's been challenges working for other people, and working with certain demographics.
Give me a story.
I'll say, I want to make sure it's ethical. So give me a second.
Of course, take your time.
I'll say the type of therapist that I am as me, not necessarily as a Black woman, but it shows up in other Black women, of course, is I like to help people, but I like to kind of get to the point, get to the healing. And some cultures, some demographics are more passive. And so if I'm coming in being more direct or more straight to the point, it can come across as being offensive, and especially in couples. So I've had to learn how to dial it down a bit or refer them out.
I see. Being licensed is sort of what you need to be able to practice, but I'm sure those intricacies are something that you still learn on a day to day. Because personally, I can't imagine trying to mediate between a couple. Does that come with a certain difficulty, or are you used to it, or are you still learning day by day?
Yeah, so I'm always learning. As a licensed marriage and family therapist, we have to have a certain number of relational hours just for us to have our license and specialty. So I'm constantly learning from couples, but I'm also constantly learning about how to help them, specifically with relational issues. But it does get a little challenging sometimes, although I do like to help people through conflict. So I enjoy the process more than other people. A lot of therapists, they say that they couldn't do it, or they wouldn't know what to do. So I get that a lot, just in general, even from therapists. They just don't want to touch couples therapy at all.
Wow. Yeah, I could see how it could be difficult, but you said it's your passion, and it seems like you're doing great work. You're very professional, and I think that you bring an easy understanding for lay people to sort of understand what they're getting into if they wanted to seek out couples therapy. What is bringing you joy or inspiration in your work right now?
I've been doing more like layman's terms, translating with my couples, and that's been fun because I've been also doing more like social media takes and giving information on social media, which requires me to be less clinical and more just conversational with people. And I'm translating that in my therapy, and I'm seeing that it's more helpful. They like that a little bit more than me being clinical. It's like I'm finding the balance of just having the conversation in a way that feels conversational more than therapeutic, and that's exciting for me.
More than therapeutic. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so it doesn't, when I say therapeutic, meaning it doesn't feel like they're in therapy, right? It feels like they're just having a conversation with someone who is trying to help them, and not like we need to, step by step, this is what we need to do to, get you on your healing journey. It's more of let's talk about it, let's figure it out together. Let me give you real life examples or pop culture examples that you can relate to. So it's more relational in that way, I think.
Yeah, that seems super helpful. So if they're feeling overwhelmed or disconnected or stuck, maybe a big one, what's one first step that you would invite them to take?
Individuals or couples?
Either or. Or both.
So if I'll say with an individual, if they're feeling stuck, I always tell them to dream. A lot of people forget to dream, and so I tell them to just dream it out, right? So write it down. What is your dreams? And they struggle with that sometimes because they feel like it's unattainable or they're not allowed to dream. It brings up a lot for them. So I say start there, and then we kind of narrow it down to, is the dream realistic, or whatever it is that is the barrier for them. But usually it's not too crazy, and so we can go with it and help get them unstuck in some way. And for couples, if they're feeling stuck, I tell them to date. They usually stop dating.
Yeah, a nice dinner, a nice movie, a nice walk, that can solve a lot, especially if maybe you're just sitting at home too much, or getting out and having some positive stimuli.
Yeah, and not the typical date that they will always go on, right? So do something else that is not normal for you, but still a date. that usually does a lot for them because they're missing something on the date that they pick and agree on is usually something that's going to bring a level of joy for them to then open up a conversation or feel safer on each other again,
Okay.
for them to feel romantically connected. So that sparks something for them to get unstuck.
Oh, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes. I feel like just speaking with you in the podcast studio in this scenario, I'm sort of receiving a bit of couples therapy myself. You said you were getting into social media. Where can the people reach you?
Yeah, so my social media is the Evolve Healing House, or Evolve Healing House. So take off the. It's Evolve Healing House on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Instagram. And on Facebook, it's my first and last name, MaRay Crockett. And my website is evolvehealinghouse.com.
Okay. And do you have an email or a number you would like to share?
Yes, so my email is maray@evolvehealinghouse. And then the phone number, off the top of my head, I do not have memorized.
Oh, it's okay. I'm sure they have enough ways to reach you. Here at the Carter Clinic, we are in Raleigh, 4009 Bear Drive, Suite 100. Our telephone number is 919-848-0132. That's if you need psychiatric evaluations, medical management, trauma therapy, addiction support, SAIOP, or more. We also have intensive outpatient services. And again, we also deal with adolescents and children. I believe the ages are 4 to 84. So if you are dealing with addiction, substance use, and you need our recovery services, we have opiate dependence treatment, and we have intensive recovery supports and group therapy every Tuesday and Thursday. I want to wrap this up, but before I do, I want to give you the chance to promote anything that you have on the horizon. We're wishing you the best of luck, so Evolve Healing House can expand and grow, and more people can know about marriage and couples therapy, and they can reach out and get services that they need to, blossom in their own relationships.
Yeah, I do have a group that's currently enrolling clients. It's self-care for Black women specifically, so that's something that's already out. And then I do have a few just educational things that I'll be putting out soon for couples, so they can join a workshop that I'm putting together and releasing likely towards the new year.
Okay, and where would they find that? On the YouTube or the Instagram?
Yep, so they would find it on my website. It'll be posted on my website.
Once again, that's evolvehealinghouse.com. I really like your blog. Give her blog a read. Super interesting. There's a lot of entries here. She talks about insurance, communication, intimacy, attachment, and the 3 circles of connection. Actually, can you explain the 3 circles of connection really quickly?
Yeah, so that was just a theory I was putting together because some people feel like they have to have, like their core circle needs to do everything, meet everything, or everyone has to kind of be in that core circle. So I had it to where you have kind of your core people, like your immediate family or your chosen family, and then outside of that is your more supportive people that are kind of like your mentors, your therapists, your preachers, your doctors, the people who want to see you grow, and they're not necessarily active in your life every day, but they're your like support growth system. And then outside of that, you have people who are the people who pass in and out of your life, your associates, your old coworkers, the people you went to school with, the ex that checks in every now and again, right? So those are the people that just pass through because they want to hear from you, they want to see how you're doing, they want to make sure you're alive and well, but they're not your core people. I think a lot of people get offended by those kind of people that pass through to check in on them, when really it might be a genuine check-in because you've already built a connection, but it's not something that they want to maintain day to day or month to month.
Yeah, or they're not able to.
Mm-hmm.
I love that philosophy. I think that with this industry growing, we need to continue to come up with ideas to give people different resources that they can use and different ideas that they can incorporate in their own lives.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, MaRay, and I can't wait for the Carter Clinic and Evolve Healing House to collaborate in the future, and we can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll have more to tell us in a few weeks, months, or less than a year's time. I'm positive of that.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Carter Clinic podcast, and we'll see you next